What does this thing weigh?
I don't know.
Okay, sorry.
Don't put me in the corner like that, bro. Now I'm like a fucking fool.
Yo, what's up guys? Welcome to another episode here at I Am AIRSOFT. Today I'm joined by the one and only Stewbacca.
117.
So my brother, what are you doing in my house?
I just want to see if you smell different when you're asleep.
And?
I also brought this for you.
What is the name of this gun?
So English is Light Automatic Rifle, LAR, or in the original it'd be FAL.
Okay, and who is the airsoft manufacturer?
VFC.
So guys, what we're gonna do is just go through a brief history of the real steel counterpart, and then we're gonna move on to some information about the manufacturer, and then we're gonna talk about specs. So my man, who is the manufacturing company of the real steel FAL?
So originally it'd be Fabrique Nationale in Belgium.
Was there a specific inventor?
Dieudonné Sauve was basically an understudy of John Moses Browning, so he brought this to fruition.
When you say Browning?
The Browning, so basically Dieudonné Sauve finished the high power pistol after John Browning's death, and then after the World War II he started working on this as well.
Amazing,
So yeah, pretty legendary guy.
When was the real steel gun released to the world?
So they started working on it in 1947, straight after the war, and then it was adopted, prototype sort of finalized 1953, 1954.
Of course there's technological progression in these weapons, so what was the predecessor to the FAL?
In Commonwealth service, it'd be the Lee Enfield No. 4, which we've done a video on from G&G.
I will link the video to the Lee Enfield in the description below. So the predecessor is the SMLE. What is the successor to this gun?
So this would have been replaced by the L85.
You mentioned that you have one of those, a replica on your gun wall. So you've got the SMLE, the FAL, and the L85.
Yeah.
Wow,
so
that's amazing, my bro.
In British service, it was slightly different, but it's basically the same gun.
We made a $250,000 gun wall collection by yours truly over here. I'll link that video in the description below. Stu, you said that they started working on this gun around 1947 and it was released around 1953. That's post World War II.
Yep.
If the Lee Enfield was used during World War II, and this is the successor to the Lee Enfield, what sort of technological advancements were they trying to implement into this rifle?
So certainly more modern materials and processes, and also using lighter weight, smaller ammunition that was less range, not quite as long as the Lee Enfield. Combat was 300, 500 meters, no longer 1,000 meter trench warfare. You needed something lighter, handier, more ammunition, easier to reload, better at urban warfare basically.
Was this more efficient in terms of fully automatic fire?
Yes, certainly it was capable of it. I mean, in UK service, obviously we blocked that off. A lot of countries did, because it ended up being a bit more of a powerful cartridge than originally intended. It was 7.62 NATO. In service, most people use them in semi-auto only anyway, but it's faster than a bolt action at least.
The last question in terms of history, is there a pop culture reference about this rifle?
Definitely. I mean, it was nicknamed the right arm of the free world. Over 90 countries, nearly 100 countries adopted it in some form or other. There were the two versions, the metric, the original one that this is, and then the L1A1 is the UK or Commonwealth version, which most of the Commonwealth countries like Australia and New Zealand took. Same basic rifle in slightly different flavors, but it was used all over the world.
So, I mean, if it was so highly adopted then, is it still relevant today?
Certainly in second-tier militaries and some war zones that haven't had the chance to invest more at the end of the day, you still see plenty of these knocking around.
Brother, did you buy this or was this sponsored to you?
No, I bought it out of my own money.
Just a disclaimer on our behalf. You as the consumer, at the end of the day, if you make the purchase, in time you're going to discover the flaws of the gun, and you will know if we were bullshitting you or not. So yeah, welcome to
Honest Stu's Reviews.
What was the procurement process like? But online, did you go in store? How did you get your hands on this?
I met up with Ray, who's their marketing manager and sales sort of guy, as well as some of their techs. I went to Pentagon Center.
The VFC Pentagon Service Center is in Taiwan. It's like a little distribution center here. So we are fortunate to be able to go to VFC itself to purchase the guns. So you went through and you met with Ray?
Yep, and basically we sat down, full detail strip showed me like all the ins and outs of it, what materials we used where, maintenance procedures, things to watch out for, because it's quite heavily recoiling, so you have to tighten things up every so often. So yeah, just basically went through the entire process and then basically sold me one afterwards as well. So
this FAL was announced in 2019. We're currently in 2022. I would call that quite a delay.
Yeah.
What are the reasons for that delay, and how did VFC handle that as a company?
Basically, they've been quite busy. They've got quite a lot of contracts because They're very good at what they do.
You mentioned SIG, BCM.
Glock or Umarex, BCM. So Umarex, Glock, Walther, and HK, they do all those products.
Colt?
Yes, through Cybergun as well, their M733. So they have a huge array of licensed products.
How did they handle that delay? Did they show progress on the rifle?
It was first announced pretty quietly in 2019. There was like a mock-up in a sealed glass case among some of their other 762 products, the HK line. And obviously a lot of people, including me, noticed it and photographed it, things like that. So we knew something was coming. And then 2020, they had a functioning prototype that I actually got hands-on with. I was on the live stream with Ray for AIRSOFT Action, and I was actually using it on the firing range they had there. And there's definitely a marked difference between the two. So it was already a good gun when I tried it before, but what they've come out with eventually is even better. They took a lot of time to redevelop it and put the latest technology into it.
So bro, how many of the FALs are going to market? What is the volume?
So this is the basic model, so it's got an aluminium receiver. There's about 1,000 of these in circulation. The DX version will come out later. That's going to be all steel receiver.
DX meaning deluxe.
But that's about 50% more expensive. It's only really intended for the true collectors that are absolutely adamant on having the pinnacle.
Alright guys, so now we're going to move to the specs of the FAL. Stu, what is the gender of this gun? Are we looking at an AEG or a GBBR?
It's GBBR. It's the first GBBR of its type. There have been lots of FAL or L1A1 SLR AEGs before, but like with the M733 Colt we looked at before, VFC wanted to bring something totally new to the market for the collectors and the players, so gas is the way forward.
Well, I'm a GBB slut and so are you, and
GBBR or GTFO?
100%. I started playing with GBB and I'll never look back. Alright bud, so this being a GBB, does this gun come with an adjustable end pass?
There isn't one integrated to it when you buy it, but it is fairly easy to fit aftermarket ones. Clarence Live Project Design does a floating valve, which I think some of my friends in the UK have already fitted to theirs. That can tweak the velocity a bit.
If you guys are interested in putting an adjustable end pass in the gun, I will try to get hold of a link to Clarence's end pass system, and we can link it in the description below. So if you guys do want to do adjustable end pass, we can try have that available for you. So bro, what is the weight of this weapon and how close is it to the real steel spec?
It's 3.9, just under 4 kilos. The real spec would have been about 4.5.
The original FAL that was released in 1953 had wooden furniture.
Yes.
And then they released a few more versions of the gun. The later releases were made with polymer furniture. And as you said to me, that was to reduce swelling and complications. So as there being quite a few different versions of the FAL, 4.5, I'm not sure if that's the polymer weight or the wooden weight, but I suppose 3.9 isn't too far off the ball.
It certainly handles very much like a real one. A lot of people that have used real ones and handled these, the trigger pull is very similar, if not the same, and just the feeling and the handling is excellent.
Stu, what is the length of the weapon from butt to tip?
1095, 1090, so just over 1.1 meter.
So, but what is the operation system? What are the firing modes that it comes with?
Pretty standard, semi-auto and fully auto.
But you're British, so?
We only use semi-auto.
Alright guys, so obviously a very important part of an airsoft gun is the hop adjustment. How do you adjust the hop on the FAL?
There is a small screw on the bottom here, cleverly hidden. It's not on the real gun, but it doesn't look out of place, but that is your hop adjustment. Very, very easy to do. No taking the gun apart, no breaking it open, just a small flathead screwdriver underneath to tweak it up or down.
Thank you, VFC.
Yeah.
What is the FPS and joule count at the moment?
Using 0.2 gram BBs and 12 kilogram gas, green gas, I was running around about between 120 and 130 meters a second, depending on temperature.
And what joules are we looking at there?
That's around about 1.5. Pretty consistent. I've run 0.2, 0.25, 0.3, 0.4, 0.45, 0.5, all kinds of different weights through it. And the joule reading is always pretty consistent. Because there's no MPAS and there's no sort of adjustable valve system, it tends to throw them out at different speeds, but the joules are pretty consistent around about 1.5.
Let's talk about the barrels. I see quite a long barrel here.
Yep.
Of course, if the hop adjustment is sitting just around here, the internal barrel is going to start here. But where does the internal barrel end? Does it end here or does it end?
It actually ends at the front sight blocks.
What is the length of that internal barrel?
360 millimeters. About the same as an AR kind of thing. So the M733 is pretty much the same.
So then this external barrel is sort of an accessory.
Yeah, it comes in two pieces. So the external barrel within the handguard is aluminium, and the external barrel on the end is steel threaded on. So you can actually remove it. Our teammate Fisher has one as well. He's got a bit South African roadie with his, taken the external barrel off and put a shorter flash hider on there to cut it down to a carbine.
Alright bro, so the next thing I'd like to chat about is recoil. Can I take a shot with it?
Certainly, we've got nothing in the magazine, nothing in the weapon, of course.
Okay, so rock and lock I see. Okay. Yo! That's incredible.
Indeed.
That is so decisive. It's it's such an assertive recoil. Wow.
Yeah.
What do you think about the recoil, bro?
It's the heaviest I've tried yet. Even the PSG kind of has a slower heave to this. This just absolutely kicks. Much heavier than the original prototypes I tried at MOA in 2022. They've really done some changes internally to give it that oomph. Using the same system as the BCM and the M733. So they've really worked out all the kinks and given it a hell of a lot of hoof.
Since COVID started, what was amazing is dry fire practice using airsoft weapons became extremely popular. Of course, guys couldn't go out to training facilities or they couldn't go to the range. And so dry fire became a thing. The FAL has a dry fire pin lock.
On the magazines, pull the lever down at the back, slide the sliding switch to the rear, and you can basically keep firing even when the weapon's empty. Normally the bolt would lock back, but in that case you can just keep dry firing with it.
So having such a solid recoil, it's such an amazing dry fire training weapon.
The trigger's also very similar to the real thing.
What have people been saying about the trigger, bud?
Certainly people that have used the real one and the AIRSOFT one, the feel of it is very similar. Most people are not even thinking about replacing it with anything else. I mean, there's nothing on the market yet, but sometimes they do come up with alternate triggers afterwards. But with this, it's so close to the real thing, people aren't even that bothered.
Didn't you mention that the gun was so close to spec that it has the same issues as the real steel counterpart?
Certainly, if the gas is running low, we've been stringing quite a few rounds out, you might start getting doubling. There's a minor problem with the sear that they've replicated in the AIRSOFT one where it doesn't quite catch authoritatively, so you'll get a double shot every so often.
Isn't that incredible that VFC replicated the real thing so well that it's got the same issue that the real gun has?
Yeah, it's all perfectly to spec basically.
How close to spec is this? If you wanted to change out some of the parts on the airsoft rifle for real steel, could you do that?
Definitely. Some of the guys in America have already done that, and if you're in the UK or anywhere else and you can get all the deactivated parts or non-firearms parts basically, front handguards, buttstocks, pistol grips, you can change them out to your heart's content. Also the top rail, you can change them out for real ones, or you can buy VFC's mounting rail for the top. Picatinny rail basically slides on in place of the standard cover. But yeah, if you've got real steel covers with existing NATO spec rails on top, put those in as well. You can basically fit it out to your heart's content with real parts.
Right, so Stu's sort of segued into furniture on the gun. When you look at the FAL, you'll notice that there's no rails on the gun. So I mean, if you wanted to put a scope in it, well, where do you put it? Well, an accessory specific to the FAL made from VFC is the rail that Stu just showed you now. That has to be purchased additionally. It doesn't come with the gun, and you said it's about
1500 NT in country, so around about 40, 50 pounds, $50, that kind of thing.
Okay. Stu showed me previously, you break the gun open, you pull this rail out.
Just like that. Put this one on. It does take a little bit longer to put it on because you have to align all the shoes inside.
So, Bud, let's go into some of the furniture on the gun. Where are our sling mounts?
So, one at the back here that's non-rotating, and then one at the front, which you can put either side, basically.
What about the fire controls? Is it ambidextrous?
No, this is pretty old and classical before we had that kind of thing, so it's just on the left-hand side for right-handed shooters.
You mentioned you can take the external barrel off. If you take the external barrel off, can you take the flash hider off the edge of the external barrel and move that to this barrel?
Not at the moment, because they're actually different threads. The muzzle is threaded 14mm standard, so you put suppressors or traces on it. The thread for the barrels in between is not standard, so you can't just take that existing one off and put it straight on.
If you did want to put a flash hider or a different muzzle on the gun, it would have to go on the end of the external barrel. If you wanted to shorten it to make it a carbine, then you're going to have to find sort of conversion kits for that. Let us know if you want that conversion kit. If you do, let us know in the comments, then we will sort of source that for you and link it in the description. Alright, bud, in terms of furniture, just to wrap that up, does the gun come with iron sights? Because I see an iron sight on the front, but I don't see one on the back. What happened there?
Mine flew off, so... This is not a reflection on VFC, this is me doing something they probably shouldn't do. Inside the gun, there is a buffer at the back, which is used to absorb some of the recoil. If you take it out, it gives it the full stroke, like the real gun, and some of the American reviews I've watched advocate for that. But it does then mean that the bolt's slamming against the back when it wouldn't usually be, so I'd probably avoid doing that if I were you.
So the recoil is so heavy that when you removed the back buffer and the bolt struck the rear of the gun, it hit the iron sight off.
It shook them loose over a matter of time, basically, then they basically sort of flew off the back of the weapon.
Alright,
I managed to find them at least.
Up to you. Do you want to take the iron sights off, put a scope on, and run it without a buffer? That's your choice. So just briefly, Bud, when you purchase the gun, does it come with any tools or anything specific to this weapon?
Yeah, you get a stamp sheet steel multi-tool for it. It's kind of like the real one, and that helps you adjust the sight, disassemble if you need to completely strip it down. So that comes in the box, along with a speed loader as well. Alright
guys, well that about wraps up the specs that we have for you on the gun itself. If we missed anything or if there's anything you're curious about, please drop it in the comments and Stu you or myself will get back to you. But the last thing that we need to chat about is the magazine, right? What is the capacity of this?
Officially 20 rounds, like the real thing. You can fit 25 quite easily, and at a push 27 or 28. You get a bit more than the real thing, which is obviously helpful in airsoft.
Offhand, Bud, on about a 15-second charge of gas, how efficient is this magazine?
People are getting as many as 200 rounds from one fill. It's got a serious internal capacity. So, because it's 7.62 as well, it's quite thick.
So I mean, at 25 rounds a shot, that's about eight magazines.
Fills, yeah, you can be. Optimally, sometimes you get less, but that's the biggest reported figure I've seen.
Wow, that's crazy. So, that's extremely efficient.
Yeah.
What recommended BB weight do you recommend running?
At least 0.3s. Most gas guns, I would say 0.4s. You've got low capacity, you might as well use better ammunition, heavier ammunition, carry the energy further away, and make those shots count more, because you can get through one of these quite quickly, believe me.
What gas do you recommend? You're running 12 or 14 kilograms?
I always run 12 kilograms. Certainly with this kit, they've already had to shorten the barrel internally to keep it below power limits that are sensible, so you don't really need to overuse it, and the recoil is already pretty hefty as well on 12 kilos. You're just going to add wear to the gun by using anything heavier.
Gas, the valve, where is that situated?
Most VFC stuff these days, they put the valves on the back, even the pistols sometimes. You don't have to worry about dirt ingress when you're reloading or putting the gun down if you're prone, things like that. It looks also more effective because that's hidden inside the gun when you're using it, so if you're using it for films, things like that, you don't get that stupid mag winder or valve on the bottom of the magazine giving 100%. It away.
And I see that the magazine, the valve is recessed, so you're not going to worry about that getting caught on fast magazine?
Yes, so the PSG-1, the striker, sticks out the back a little bit, and then basically when you put it in the magazine pouch, sometimes it squeezes in and vents the gas into your pouch. Recessed, and
that is always annoying.
Everything gasses out. So yeah, I'm quite impressed with that.
Tell me, Stu, do you know any issues about this gun offhand?
Just the iron sight from me. I break shit so you don't have to.
And then the double feeding?
Yeah, that's just pretty common for the real thing. So yeah, you can basically take it apart, file the trigger sear a little bit, and it'll be fine.
Cool, guys. Well, that's the FAL by VFC. If you learned anything, you enjoyed this review, you know anybody that would enjoy this as well, kindly like, share, and subscribe to I Am Airsoft. Bro, thank you very much for coming through and showing this to the world. Thank you for your wisdom and knowledge. And
you can always count on Wikipedia.
Till next time.
Thanks, man. Take
Cool,
it easy,
guys. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.